Boss Rush 660 Day 5. So this one is a pretty easy day and a potential farm candidate for some people. It's got SI7 Smuggler as the first boss, and then Air Elemental Garr, which is a pretty high artillery strike requirement with his 400 red health, and then you've got High Justice Grimstone and Gigafin as the last boss. So we had SI7 Smuggler on 580 Day 4, so if you want to go look up that video as well to see how we played it the last time, which was pretty recent. That run, though, we did have to bring Medivh because we had a enemy that was left over at the very end of the run that didn't die to artillery strike. So this time we don't have that same restriction, although that comp from that previous run does still work, and I'm going to demonstrate that here as well. But you can go see how we ran that on that previous 580 Day 4 video if you like. The other comps, though, we're planning to freeze the Whelps because they do have fire attacks and they do have melee attacks, so you can't just root them, and if you want to prevent those high fire anomalies from killing you, freezing them is the easiest way to deal with that. The other way to deal with it is the way we did in that 580 Day 4 video, where we stuck them behind a counter rune with Medivh. There's a little bit of RNG with that plan, though, because there's 2 Whelps, but you only get 1 counter rune. So depending on how the egg swaps go, you can't always guarantee that you only face off against 1 Whelp when they come back out. And so you'd have to reset if your bounce puts both Whelps in play after those swaps occur. For this comp, though, we're running Balinda with Lesser Water Elemental, Bwonsamdi with Arena Contender, Genn with Gilnean Strength, Varden with Band of Frost, Lokholar with Icy Focus, and then I'm using Edwin with Round of Drinks in this slot, but you could use other Artillery Strike mercenaries here. If you need the high Artillery Strike damage for Garr, you could use Rogers in this slot. I'm using Edwin, though, because he's better at killing the Air Elemental if you have just your Artillery Strikes mercs alive. If you get a low enough nature anomaly, both Genn and Edwin together can kill the Air Elemental with no other mercenaries, but it's a lot harder to do that now that we're up at 660 and those anomalies can get a lot higher than they used to. So even my Genn here, with his high level of upgrades, is not able to guarantee a win against Air Elemental with just him and Edwin. Because the biggest thing on that fight is you get double chain lightninged on turn 2, and so if you can't just tank those double chain lightnings either by transforming Genn or just summoning and raising your hit points with that, and then still getting crit by it, then you won't be able to beat the fight with just those 2. So that's a possibility for beating them on an artillery strike miss. The other option with this comp is to not kill off all your mercenaries. The Frost comp is very good at beating the second and third boss, and it can even beat the last boss. But it's a little bit sketchy on the last boss depending on what actions they perform. So we start out with Balinda, Bwon, and Genn. And on turn 1 you have an option to either pop both eggs or only pop 1 egg. If you pop both eggs, then there's 3 potential targets that can cast the 5-speed Flame Buffet attack on turn 2, which could kill your Varden. If you only pop 1 egg, then there's less targets that have that potential to mess you up there. Also on this first turn, if they both use Reckless First Flight, it can be a little bit sketchy, and you might have to shoot the second one just to prevent this fire damage if the Whelp is not damaged. So if you do get a First Flight, I usually freeze that, and then we're just going to let this one shoot whatever. I'm going to pop 1 egg and show how that goes. So I'm going to put this one, I guess I'll shoot here since this one's already taking some damage. I'm going to pop 1 egg with Genn and then bounce. If you want to pop both eggs, you just use Balinda to pop the other one. And you do have the option of either shooting the Spacemaker at the Whelp or shooting your Flame Dart at the Whelp for that Frost weakness. But we're using Lokholar, so I like the Frost weakness. The advantage of popping both eggs, though, is when you do your Cold Snap next turn, it will freeze everything. And I think you get a little bit more Frost Ramp that way because you can't actually Frost Ramp off of these eggs because they hatch. So even if it was lethal damage to the egg, it'll still not give you an extra freeze if there's an egg in play. Also, if you use a deck tracker like the HS Replay's Hearthstone deck tracker, and I'm not sure if Firestone does the same, but it's kind of a little bit of a way to cheat on this fight because it'll show you which enemy has or which egg is actually the boss and which is the ones that have whelps in them. So turn 2, we just use Varden, Balinda, and Bwonsamdi. And the only thing you're concerned about with positioning is where the if they were to get off one of those flame buffet attacks, the 5-speed one, would it cleave your guys or not? Alright, so you're going to bounce again, and then here I'm going to get some frost ramp, and I'm going to get a free freeze here and just get some ramp. And then that will also weaken this whelp so that my cold snap will give me another freeze. And then I don't have to swing with this one here because he's not doing anything faster than my cold snap, so that'll just freeze him. So this one I can get some free ramp here, and this one is going to be the whelp, as you can see here from the deck tracker. This one's the whelp, and then this one is the boss. Actually, I'm not sure. Yeah, that's actually not displaying on the recording. But anyway, the deck tracker is showing me that this egg is the boss, and this is the whelp. I'm doing a game capture instead of a screen capture, so it's not picking up the deck tracker here. But yeah, so I'm going to weaken that one, and then that'll make my cold snap big enough. And then this one, if I break one of these eggs, it'll give me the ramp from that swing, and then the thing behind it will also get hit by the cold snap and be frozen. So I don't care about freezing the boss, so I'm just going to freeze this whelp here. And then it'll also end up dying to Balinda's AoE at the end of the turn. And if this was the if these had a high neutral anomaly, so that would kill your water elemental, you could just swing with both of your water elementals. On other things, or like hold the second water elemental. That should all be fine. So here on turn 3, instead of bringing Balinda back out, I just bring out Varden and Lokholar. And at this point, your positioning shouldn't really matter too much, because you're just going to keep them frozen for like the rest of the fight. But if you're going to position around anything, it's that Flame Buffet Cleave. So on this turn, I like to just freeze whatever's not frozen, and bounce, and then we get some free ramp here, and then we do our Hailstorm. And this is why we bring Lokholar. And make sure you do your Varden freeze before your elementals, because if they're already frozen, it would just do an Ice Lance for damage and not give you the additional ramp. Now you're hoping that the whelps die first if you're wanting to kill your other mercenaries off. If you are planning to not kill your mercenaries off, then it doesn't matter where the shots go. But sometimes it'll just machine gun down the boss, or the smuggler, and then you'll have leftover whelps where they'll help you kill your own guys off, but it can be a little bit problematic. Since they will start attacking you and shooting you and stuff after that. So you can try to like do the math here. So basically just add a 0 because it shoots 10 times. So this is going to do 3,660 damage. That's doubled. So that's more than enough to kill both of these. So if you want to kill your mercenaries off, you might not want to Hailstorm this turn. You could just do like a single target shot here. The Snowball is the only ability from Lokholar that can shoot your own mercenaries. So if you're wanting to use that to kill your own guys off, I would use the Frost Shock this turn. So like that's a good option to do there. Then you can choose if you want to still ramp or if you want to just use like a Frost Dart here. You could even ramp Fire if you want to like boost your Genn and Balinda damage for killing off your own mercenaries, because you do kind of have a lot of overkill here. So you can just like swing with both of these to get more Frost Ramp. I guess I'll do Fire here, and I'll just do a Cold Snap. So I'm gonna kill off just Lokholar, I guess. So Bwonsamdi and Balinda are really nice for both of the next 2 fights if you were to fight them. But this guy basically does nothing. So if you get to this board state, you can take your time and kill off all your mercenaries except for Genn and Edwin. Using Balinda. or you can go ahead and like fight the next boss and keep there's kind of like 3 different tiers of keeping mercenaries alive. So you could keep just your artillery strikes alive. You could keep Balinda, Bwonsamdi, and your artillery strikes alive. Or you could keep Balinda, Varden, and your and Bwonsamdi and your artillery strikes alive. And I guess there's 4 tiers, because then you could also just keep everyone alive. So Bwonsamdi and Balinda will completely lock down until you're the air elemental until you run out of bounces. They also completely lock down Garr until you run out of bounces. If you bring Varden though, then Varden is also very good at killing Garr. And then if you wanted to kill the last boss without hitting artillery strike, then you kind of want the Lokholar alive too. But obviously each additional mercenary you keep alive is less odds of hitting artillery strike. So it's really just kind of up to you how much you want to keep alive. So let's see. Actually, since I have to show multiple comps, I'm gonna kill no one here, and then maybe I'll get to demonstrate how the last boss goes if you actually keep everyone alive. Usually if I'm just farming though, I would probably kill everyone off with this setup. Alright, so Atiesh is really good. The Icy Arrival is also quite good. This activates on every Bwonsamdi bounce, but it can keep freezing the same target, so it's not perfect. But either of these could be good. I'll just do Atiesh for fun. So if you do keep everyone alive, Balinda, Bwonsamdi, and Varden are quite good at beating this boss. Turn 1, they basically don't do anything. And then turn 2, you've got them both frozen. And from there, you know, it's just super easy. So this guy's immune to spells on turn 1, but you can still freeze him. And then these Varden shots will... It's random if they do any damage, because this guy will be immune to him. Sometimes they'll have lower attack, and that water elemental will survive there. Okay, so we're just going to get some ramp here. We're going to freeze this chain lightning. And I'm going to do one more bounce. And here you could do either one. I'm just going to do a flurry though. Get 3 hits instead of 2. Now we've got so much ramp now that I don't need to do another bounce, but you do have another bounce available. I'm just going to bring out Lokholar instead of Bwon though. And the chain lightnings on this fight, they always target your highest health mercenary. Like whoever was highest health at the start of that turn. So here they would shoot at Balinda. So I positioned Lokholar away from Balinda, but they're not going to get to act anyways. You could attack with this or not. It doesn't really matter. I guess I'll just not swing with it. But we've got so much ramp that these guys are going to kill them off. And here, there are melee attacks on the last boss. So you could take an ice wall if you wanted to, but you're... I mean, either one's fine. I guess I'll take the ice wall. Alright, we did get artillery strike. I'm gonna skip it though, just to demonstrate. I know it's blasphemous to skip, but... I kind of want to show this because it's kind of funny. Alright, so I like to just start with Balinda, Bwonsamdi, and Varden. And these 3 can do the whole fight. So when you kill these Firesworn, well, first of all, on this turn, you don't have to freeze here. You can just keep this alive and potentially get more ramp with it next turn. Although, keep in mind, when all the Firesworn die, they do 45 damage per shot with their death rattle, so you'll take 135 damage. That could all potentially hit the same target. So as long as everything is over 135 health, there's no risk to just like leaving them alive and not freezing Garr here, because you can freeze him next turn with a cold snap. You can also choose to not flurry, because these flurry shots don't, like, it's not ramped yet. And each of those shots will kill a Firesworn if it hits them, because they're weak to frost due to this passive here. I'm gonna go ahead and shoot though, and we'll just see what happens. You could also swing here and freeze Garr, and then these would get some ramp. But I'm gonna leave the elemental sit for now. So it's up to you. You want to swing with your elemental, or you want to act with Varden. It could go either way. Okay, well, we did kill all of them, so we're going to take 135 damage, split on 3 random targets. And we don't get to cold snap next turn, so we're going to have to use this water elemental anyways. But he always scorches on turn 2. So you can see we have the Scorch here. So I'm just going to get some ramp, and I'm going to use one of these, and we're going to bounce. And we'll shoot a flurry, and I don't need this taunt for anything on this fight, so I'm just going to get rid of it. It could potentially soak a shots from the dead Firesworn, but it's not important. So you basically just bring out these 3 every time. You could at some point bring Lokholar once you have enough ramp to help finish him off, but Varden crits anyway and does triple shots, so you don't really have to bring out Lokholar. And I'm just gonna pitch these for ramp, because it doesn't really matter. We're gonna shoot a flurry. Alright, at this point we do have enough ramp that we don't have to bring Bwonsamdi anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and bring Lokholar. The only things that Garr does that deals damage is summoning the elementals and then their death rattles, and he has a Scorch and a Blade Flurry, so both of those are 6 and 10 speed, so you're never worried about him being able to do anything before you can freeze him. And we have Ice Lance freezes as well, so you don't even have to save any water elementals. Alright, both of these are excellent. You could go with either one. I guess this is the safer option, so I'll go ahead and take that one. Atiyesh is kind of funny though, but you have more than enough ramp, so I would say that Stoneheart Salvation is just the better choice overall. And you could take any of these really. I'll just take the Ore Banner though. So this fight's a little bit sketchy. I have beaten it though, because the tail here from Gigafin did a chum bucket on turn 2, and I was able to ice, or I was able to cold snap off of it. But if he doesn't do that, I'm not sure how reliably you can beat this. So I started with this, and then I didn't put out Varden on turn 1 because I didn't want to risk Varden dying to these high damage attacks here. I had just used Edwin as a throwaway when I did this previously. You could use Genn, but I think I'm going to do the same thing here that I did the last time I beat this. Because he's a more attractive target for them to try to kill than Balinda, and I would rather my Balinda survive. Okay, so we obviously bounce, and I froze this guy last time, but he used the 8-speed attack when I fought this previously. So we got a no shadow anomaly, and we got a nature anomaly, and holy. So I'm going to try to freeze Grimstone again. It might not work, though. You could also try to freeze one of these. And because I have Spirit Blade, I can swing. So I'm just going to swing at Grimstone. And I'll put some Frost Weakness on Grimstone as well. These guys are going to AoE me for like 10 red damage for each hit. Or it's 5 red damage, just crit for 10. Okay, good hits. So this is basically the same thing that happened when I did this the last time. But I don't know if the tail is going to summon the Chum Bucket this turn or not. So if he doesn't, I might be in trouble. So we'll see how it goes. Because it's just completely... With our experience on Gigafin in the past, it's random whether he does the Chum Bucket or if he keeps trying to like shoot Murloc missiles and other stuff at me. And it does bring back all of the enemies on this fight. So let's hope for a Chum Bucket. Oh, we got it. Okay, excellent. And that's going to go off. So this is going to summon just one Murloc here. It's always small enough for this Cold Snap. I'm going to get some ramp here too, though. And I could save these, but I'm just going to get ramp with it instead. And then we're going to snap, and we're going to ramp Frost. So this isn't like a guaranteed strategy. You could actually, if you wanted to not bring artillery strikes, you could slot Cookie in one of those artillery strike slots, and on this turn you could bring out Varden, Cookie, Bwon, and summon a fish on their side of the board, so that even if there's no Chum Bucket, you could get that Cold Snap off. And then you could actually have a guaranteed kill on this, or I think it's guaranteed, it's close to guaranteed. Okay, and now we've got all the ramp and stuff, so we're just going to bring out Varden and Lok. We lose our Stonehearth Salvation, but that's whatever. Because they're not going to get to act again. So we've got, what, like 15,000, or this is like 5,000. This is another 6,000-ish. So there's like 11,000 hit points on the board or something like that. I'm just going to ramp again. We're going to bounce. And then I guess I would rather this go off before this. But yeah, like 11 or 12,000 hit points in play. Not a big deal. Like every single shot went into the red there somehow. That was unfortunate. But it doesn't really matter. So that guy will be boosted by Nature Anomaly, but I think his abilities are Shadow. And here we don't need Bwonsamdi anymore, so I'm going to bring out Balinda. And Balinda can also ensure that that Murloc dies before it does anything bad in case there was an anomaly. And prevent it from eating a extra shot from one of these guys. Okay, it is Shadow, so I'm not worried about that doing anything, so I could just swing here and then do this and that. Or we'll do this last. It probably won't even happen. I could shoot that with Balinda at 3 speed, though, if I wanted to prevent it. Like, say there was a high shadow anomaly and it had a chance of killing my Lokholar. So yeah, a little bit of damage there. Almost 1,000 per shot. When I did this before, I had double Atiesh, and those were doing over 1,000 damage to the greens. So much slower than it had to be. I could have just taken the artillery strike. And like I said earlier, you can just kill off all of the non-artillery strikes if you wanted to take the time to do that. Alright, then the next comp here is basically the same plan, except you bring Holmes to ensure the double freeze on turn 1, so you don't have to worry about any of that ability RNG from the enemies. So this comp we're using Paid Up Front, Arena Contender, Water Elemental, Band of Frost, Gilnean Strength, and again the Round of Drinks on Edwin. And again, you can use Rogers in that slot if you need the blue artillery strike for Garr. And in that Varden slot, you could use a Lokholar instead of Varden, but then your only ramp for Lokholar is Balinda's Frostburn. So it's... You also need like a pretty strong Frostburn and Lokholar's Hailstorm. So mine are rank 30 on Balinda's Frostburn and 20 on Lokholar's Ice Storm, and that is enough to win with that comp where you replace Varden with Lokholar. But if they're weaker than that, you might have some trouble if you do that swap. This one I also like because it gives you more control over what you deal damage to once your Frost is ramped, so you can more reliably kill your own mercenaries off with this one. Okay, so for this one, I believe I usually like to pop this egg with Balinda. That way the water elemental, when it swings with this elementary and gets the extra melee attack, it won't hit this even if this is anomaly buffed. It'll hit the 10 HP Whelp instead, and then that Whelp will also be frozen going into the next turn. But you do have other options where you could like pop both eggs, and then this water elemental would hit this egg and this Whelp. But I'm going to do it this way. So next turn, when you do bounces, these Whelps that come out of the eggs are not considered mercenaries. So when you do a bounce, the eggs, though, are mercenaries. So if you have a Whelp in play, this is not going to take up a board slot, like one of the 3 board slots. So we're going to get 3 of these 4 back out here. And then if you pop both eggs, you get all 3 enemies come back out. Okay, so now we do the Bwonsamdi, Balinda, and Varden. Oh, and since these Whelps don't get bounced, it actually doesn't stay frozen. They always unfreeze at the end of that turn. Okay, so this one is the boss. If you use a deck tracker, again, that will tell you which one the boss is. A little bit of a cheat there, but it works. So the far right one's the boss, and this one is the Whelp. So if this one was using its 5 speed here, it can cause a little bit of problems because that flame buffet, you do have another dragon in play here, and it could kill your Varden if the fire anomaly is high enough. I don't have that this time, so I don't have to worry about that. But if you did have that here, you might need to either kill it with Balinda or your water elemental, and then it can mess up your cold snap. So that's one of the other reasons to not let your water elemental hit this Whelp on turn 1, is that this would then be at full health, and you could freeze it before the flame buffet. So there's a few different options here, and I haven't like fully played all of the different outcomes out. Actually, rather than doing ramp, I'm going to crack one of these eggs so that I can get a freeze on that target. And I'm going to swing on that target as well. Because whenever you have these eggs here, if you pop an egg and then attack it with the same thing, it does not target a random target. Or at least from my experience. I've done it like 10 different attacks like this, and none of them actually hit a different target. So even though normally when a target dies, it'll random target with whatever you targeted on that, that doesn't occur with these eggs, it seems. The hatch, it like preserves the targeting the way that they have it coded. So yeah, I'm going to do this so that I get that extra freeze. Oh, actually, now that I think about it, if I do this, I get more freezes. Because this one's the boss, so I get a freeze from the elemental swinging, and then I get another freeze from the cold snap. If I had done this one, the Whelp would die to the cold snap because the water elemental would weaken it, so I would actually miss one ramp on Varden. It's a little bit of a confusing turn. I'm not entirely sure if it's better to do the double pop on turn 1 or the single pop. That's why it's taken me so long to get this video out today, is there's like so many different comps and different lines of play you can take with these comps that it gets a little bit confusing and hard to work out what exactly is best. I'm actually going to put Varden over here so that they're separated from my other mercenaries in case a Flame Buffet ever does cast on me. This way they might think, oh, I can kill Bwonsamdi and Balinda and target over here instead of hitting my Varden. Okay, so I'm going to get some free ramp here. And we're going to get ramp with this. And you can either flurry or do an Ice Lance before your water elementals to get more ramp with Varden. I'm just going to take the flurry though. And we're going to bounce. So that Whelp's going to die. This AoE. Actually, I'm going to do it this way. So now both of these will kill the Whelp, since it's going to die anyway to the Balinda AoE. And that way these Varden flurry shots will never hit the Whelp here. So we'll preserve some extra damage. And ideally you want those flurry shots to hit the Whelps, but you should be fine if they don't, if your Varden and Balinda are strong enough. So one of the advantages of this comp is that you end up with 3 water elementals, so you have lots of water elementals just swinging into that 10 HP Smuggler every turn to give you a bunch of ramp. And you also have those water elementals to refreeze the Whelps during your cleanup. And you have more control over where the damage goes because you can just use like cold snaps and targeted damage from Balinda to ensure that you kill the Whelps before the Smuggler here. You can try to save your cold snap and use it to like actually get the killing blow on something, but at this point, if you're strong enough, you don't have to really worry about doing that. So I'm going to go for another bounce here, and we're just going to the highest health one into the 10 HP guy, and then freeze both the Whelps. And then here you can flurry, but if you want to have control and ensure that the Smuggler doesn't die, because this is going to do like 1500 damage, I just like to shoot here instead. Just use the Ice Lance for damage. You could also use the Ice Lance for ramp or freeze. And of course, if these guys have a health anomaly, they will heal. But you have so much damage ramp that it's not really a concern. Okay, so once again, same kind of calculus as the previous one. You could bring Holmes out here if you wanted to kill off Holmes and like keep alive these Frostmercs. That would be an option as well. I'm gonna Binding Contract here and kill off my Bwonsamdi though. Actually, I'm gonna not Binding Contract because I'm gonna use Cold Snap to finish off this Whelp. And I don't want to kill the Smuggler yet. Alright, so the Smuggler basically doesn't do anything, it just spams a 1 damage AoE on you at 4 speed. So you can take your time killing off whatever you feel like killing off. And I'm going to bring Edwin so that we don't heal with our Balinda cast. And I'm just going to kill off all the non-artillery strikes this time. This would heal me, so I'm just going to use fire damage now. And then that should take care of it. So next turn, Balinda can just shoot herself, and then we'll finish the Smuggler. Alright, so out of these, Spirit Blade is really good for fighting the Air Elemental if you miss, and Everywhere Worgen is really good for that. So we missed, but you can kill the Air Elemental with this team. Because we're up to 660 now, the Nature Elementals can get really high, and if it's too high, it will kill me. So this is not a guaranteed win for me. Alright, I got a low one, so this should be a guaranteed win now. This I've seen up in the like 250 range, or the highest I've seen is 234 so far. So if this double hits me, it's going to do like 400 damage to my Genn, so he's already safe. You can transform on turn 1 and then just start spamming Everywhere Worgen so that he gets himself buffed by this as well. I'm going to go ahead and do that. But you can keep him in human form and just do summons if he's able to survive the double Chain Lightning while he's red, but if he's not able to, then you'll have to transform him. So I like to just spam Everywhere Worgen and Spirit Blade, and this only takes like 6 turns or something to kill these if you have these treasures. And if you need to heal, you can use Assisted Strike instead, but you do get the double swing with the Assassin's Blade, which gives you extra hit points when it activates. So you do get some healing, or pseudo-healing, by Assassin Blading. Alright, and that should take care of him. So now we get a treasure reroll. This one is like, this is not for budget comps. You need to be pretty strong to beat that. And we missed anyway. So these guys can't kill Garr, unfortunately, so that one's going to have to stop there. And then the last comp is the one that we used on the 580 day 4. So you can go see that other video if you want to see how that one plays when we did it earlier, but I'll go over it again here. We've got Gilnean Strength, Arena Contender, Unstable Runes, Round of Drinks, Primed Armaments, and Scout Spyglass. Now these equipment on these guys doesn't really matter. They're just the ones that I think are probably useful. You could kind of do whatever with them. But the general idea here is we've got 4 artillery strikes, and then Medivh is just there to lock down the solo enemy that we're going to have. And you want to kill off your Medivh and your Bwonsamdi by the end of the fight. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate it here. So this comp, you really don't want to see double Reckless First Flight on turn 1, because that's very difficult to deal with. And your goal is to not pop any eggs with this comp. So we got Dragon's Breath and Dragon's Breath, so that should be fine. So you always counter yourself and then bounce. And then if they were doing one Reckless First Flight, you usually want to taunt your Bwonsamdi so that he can eat that melee attack. If there's a Reckless First Flight that you have to let hit you, so say it was a double, you'd have to shoot one of them and then also shoot the other one. because they have that fire AoE that goes off if they haven't been damaged. So you don't get the opportunity to Mage Guard if there's double Reckless First Flight. That's why it's so hard to deal with. Otherwise, you get double fire AoE'd. If the fire anomaly was low enough, though, and they were doing double melee attack, you could still taunt your Bwonsamdi. And then as long as that fire attack doesn't murder your Medivh and your Genn, you should be okay. If you've just got fire attacks, or at least one fire attack, though, then you just bounce. Mage Guard so you Mage Guard Bwon if there's a melee attack. If there's not a melee attack, you can just Mage Guard your weakest guy, which in my case is Medivh, just for some hit points. And then I just shoot at one of the Whelps. So a lot of different permutations there based on the RNG, but basically if melee attack, taunt Bwon. If no melee attack, taunt your low health guy. And they usually shoot at Bwon, so you don't really take any damage. You also could taunt your Arcane Ward, but you don't need to. Now, what happens here depends on... This is where there's more RNG with this comp. It depends on where those eggs swapped. So we ended up with both the Whelps on the left, so this is a loss. Unfortunately, if you have both Whelps come back out here, you can't just stick them behind a counter rune, so the strategy just kind of falls apart. Oh, actually, it doesn't just go in order of what they were on the board. That's very weird to me. Okay, well, we got a Whelp and the boss and another Whelp egg here. So again, the duck tracker is giving away which one's which. So this will work. This is not a loss. But if you do get both Whelps here, you're in trouble, because this whole thing revolves around being able to lock down a single Whelp. So, if this uses Reckless First Flight, you have to act. You can't just pass the turn, because these are 8 speed, so this skill that just swaps characters around, unfortunately, will eat your Arcane Ward counter. So I'm gonna have to act this turn. Oh wait, we don't bounce with the Bwonsamdi. What am I thinking? Okay, so when you get a Reckless First Flight, you have to block it with a taunt. So if you have a summon available, you always do the summon. Since we have a summon, we're fine with Medivh not using a taunt this turn. If you didn't have summon available when the 9 speed is used, you would have to taunt something that can tank this hit. Which you could use like another Bwonsamdi bounce for, or you can taunt your Genn and just let him heal it up later. But since we do have a taunt, we're just going to make one. And then I'm going to go ahead and get a bird out here, and I need to shoot this before it swings. So I'm just going to use the regular Bwonsamdi attack for that. And this should work fine. So this will deactivate the fire AoE, and then we'll tank the hit with the Beastly Beauty. Alright, we got Flame Buffet this time. So when you get Flame Buffet, you just act at 6 speed or slower. So I'm going to shoot the Whelp. Oh, also, it is possible to get all 3 eggs on turn 2 and have both Whelps on the bench. If that happens, you have free reign to ramp as long as you want with Mage Guard and get summoning birds and ramping them by just casting Mage Guard, or even shooting your own guys and then like healing it back up by shooting yourself with Genn. So that's like a totally free win if that happens, but it does take a while to do that, even if you get it. So when we have Flame Buffet, we don't do anything with our Medivh unless we're summoning a bird. So he just passes, and then we shoot there. And double check your speech bubble. We've got the first over there, so they're the one that's going to get countered. And then if it's the 6 speed Dragon's Breath thing, which we got this time, then you just act slower than that and pass. So none of these guys can do anything this turn. You can do a Genn summon though. So this does not activate the counter rune. So I'm going to go ahead... I'm going to not Genn summon though. Because there's a possibility that... So basically, if he does a Reckless First Flight next, you're going to have to Genn summon anyway, but we can just do that then. If there's not a Reckless First Flight and he Flame Buffets again, then you can get out 2 birds, and then when you get the Reckless First Flight, you just have to taunt like a bird or one of these other units for that instead. Okay, so again, 6 speed, we just shoot with 1. And this is where it can take a while. If he uses that 6 speed a lot, then you're kind of just almost passing. Because all you can do is summon with Genn or shoot with Bwon. Okay, so we got the 5 speed. I'm gonna get another bird out now. Okay, and he's going first, so we're good. And summon your bird before you act with your bird so that the new one gets scaling. Okay, we got the 6 speed. So that's just a shoot and pass again. Six speed again. So this is why this comp is not ideal, but it does maximize your artillery strike odds very well. And if you need the like double artillery strike to kill Garr, this could be a good option for you. Especially if you're just trying to get a single win. Alright, 5 speed. Very nice. And as you start to get this guy low, just keep in mind that the extra shots, if you overkill this, could potentially go into these other targets and mess you up. So you never get to Arcane Rift because this is 5 speed and you would counter yourself and then that would go off. So you don't want that to happen. So we just pass with Medivh here, I believe. Alright, and first is on their side. If the fire anomaly is low enough, you could just like taunt your ward for hit points and let that thing shoot you. Even these dragon breaths you could do that with if you can like outscale. You just don't want to end up losing your ward too early. Okay, we got a first flight, so something's gonna have to tank this melee hit. So you could do a bounce and have it be immune. I'm just gonna taunt my Genn though, because he can tank that hit. You could even taunt your Bwon and just use the binding contract and let him die, because we're gonna kill him off by the end anyway. Okay, so we're just acting slow again. Okay, first flight. I am going to go ahead and do that and get rid of my Bwon now. Keep in mind he's going to get buffed by the Mage Guard, so if you are trying to kill him, just make sure it's the right amount of damage. So that's going to do 319 damage, I think, as my binding contract. So it's like 440. Alright, we should be fine to shoot with everything. And if you don't kill off your Bwon before you get rid of the Whelps, that's fine too. It shouldn't really matter who we bring out here. We're not really going to use whoever we bring. If you brought out Eudora, you'd have options to bounce your own guys, so maybe that's a good choice. Okay, so we're kind of back to the same thing here. One reason to keep Bwonsamdi alive, though, is if you have these 6 speeds, you can't really do anything if you don't have Bwonsamdi, so you're just passing then. But we're more ramped on these birds, so at some point we could just say good enough and just start going. So this would survive if I do this. I want to get some damage in here. But depending on your fire anomaly, you may or may not be able to do this. And the strength of your Mage Guard and your ward. So I've been keeping my ward at low base health so that I'm capable of killing it off with a single shot from my Medivh and some of my other damage abilities, because sometimes you do want to just kill it off. Okay, so once again, I'm going to taunt Genn. And I don't want to do any of this stuff because I don't want to random hit an egg. It is fine to pop these eggs, though, if you want to. As long as you're able to kill that 150 HP Whelp off before it does anything bad to you. Okay, and we don't really care about the overkill damage at this point, because if we pop any of these eggs, now that the other Whelp is already dead, it doesn't really matter. So I don't have to, like, sit here and calculate how much damage I'm dealing to this. Okay, so we're not worried anymore. We can just kill him before he acts. So that's a 120, and then that kills him. And I want to kill off Medivh before the end of the fight. But we still have a lot of hit points to deal with here. So I'm going to kill this one, that's the Whelp. And this can just do whatever. So both of these shots should hit this and then the Whelp, because the targeting never changes when you crack an egg. And then retarget the same thing. And this should just be an egg with a Whelp in it. So I'm going to pop that. Or it'll pop with this, and then I'm going to shoot Genn here instead. I want the big bird to go there. Or actually, this is the big bird. I ramped more. Actually, these are enough to kill the Whelp. So I can do both the birds into this. Okay, and we don't need this ward anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and shoot that ward and get a new bird. So you can see there, it even did the second hit on the broken egg, so it does treat it like it's the same unit, and that's probably why the targeting works. Okay, so here I want to crit that, and then I want to use the biggest bird, which should be this one. That actually might be too much damage. Let me crit. So I'm going to shoot my Medivh, and then I want to crit with one of these. So this will be like 1160. It'll barely not kill. And then that should kill Medivh. And that should kill the boss. I did the crit first because it'll waste the crit if you shoot your own unit first. But you don't have to really think about that. You can just kill Medivh first, and then just kill this afterwards slowly, because it doesn't really do anything. It's just 1 damage AoEs per turn. Okay, taking the Spirit Blade in case I have to fight, but we don't have to fight because we got the Artillery Strike. And this is also, if you want to overkill with Artillery Strike and do like 2,000 damage to Garr, if you got 400 Artillery Strike and you hit on all 4, it's good for that too. We're not getting that this time though. And again, if you do fight the air elemental with these artillery strike mercenaries, those chain lightnings always target your highest health mercenary. So for most people, that's going to be your Genn. And that means that you probably have to transform him on turn 1 or turn 2. But if you have like everywhere Worgen, you'd want to transform on turn 1. That way the Worgen buff affects himself and increases his HP on turn 2 before the chain lightnings go off. And then there's another option that some people played around with, which was to use a Hook Tusk Geddon comp, where you turn your Geddon red on turn 1 and just burn down the Whelps on Smuggler. The problem with that comp, though, is you need to be very strong for it to work, or you need to lower your boss rush level. But basically, you just run like Balinda, Hook Tusk Geddon, and then artillery strikes. You can also try to squeeze Bwonsamdi in the comp, but the Hook Tusk doesn't get targeted by the Whelps very reliably, so I wasn't able to find a way to make the comp work super well. But that's something that you could try playing around with and maybe get some fast clears, especially if you lower your boss rush level. But if you're doing that, then using day 4 might be the better day for that type of strategy, as I mentioned in the previous video. So those are the comps that work pretty well. I personally like the Lokholar comp probably the best. It has the most options for how you want to proceed, and you can kill your mercenaries off pretty well. This Holmes comp is also really good for that. But I just really enjoy using Lokholar on the opportunities that we get to, and there is space to do that and still bring 2 artillery strikes today. So I think that one's probably my favorite comp. Good luck on your run.